Human Rights, and Human Rights Day is observed annually on 10th December, commemorating the day in 1948 when the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Now, this Human Rights Day focuses on how human rights are a pathway to solutions, playing a critical role as a preventative, protective, and transformative force for good. This year's theme is Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now. In short, it is a call to acknowledge the importance and relevance of human rights in our everyday lives. And this is exactly what we want to talk about tonight here in studio. And joining me to my far right is Colbert Ojambo, who is an advocate of the High Court representing Jinsangu. And next to him is a social justice organization. Jinsangu is a social justice organization. And of course, next to him is Tabitha Chepkoech, counseling psychologist. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us here on KTN Prime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Asanteni sana. It's a big day, especially for human rights in the country. So let's get right to it. Colbert, talk to us about the work done at Jinsangu and how your organization's mission aligns with the broader human rights goals right here in the country.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'm an advocate, as you have been informed, yes. And I practice as such. Run a law firm. I also wear another hat where I'm a lecturer. But for purpose of this conversation, I also work with many organizations that are in the spaces of advocating for human rights. And that's where Jinsangu comes in, because we have partnered with them and we have worked together in very many other spaces. Talking of their aims, goals, and objectives, Jinsangu is primarily about seeking to enhance the lives and well-being of a minority group of people that we refer to as intersex persons, transgender persons, and gender diverse members of our communities. So they seek to enhance their lives, to promote their well-being, through various programs, including advocacy, including empowerment, probably with information about their rights, including general protection of their rights, either through litigation, court actions, providing safe spaces for them to be in a position to express themselves. Also providing social groups or just support groups, okay. and health services and social psycho support groups.
All right, Tabitha, picking it up from where he left it off, what is intimate partner violence and how does it manifest? Are there different forms? Break it down for viewers.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Intimate partner violence is a behavior by a spouse, either an ex-spouse or ex-partner or the current partner that behaves towards the partner to harm their rights in form of physical violence, sexual violence, emotional violence, psychological violence. So this violence comes in those forms. It's either sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and in that way, this person is going through violence, which is also ruining the rights of this person, just as the advocate has said about the human rights. So the rights of this person are being violated, basic human rights. Yes.
Interesting. And perhaps we can double down on how IPV goes hand in hand with Human Rights Day, because as a counseling psychologist, you must have interacted with individuals who've gone through partner violence. How important is it to talk about it on such a day where we're focusing on human rights?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very important question, because human rights are there to now protect this person, where the person has gone through a situation they are maybe fighting for their rights and no one hears about them. So coming on board and fighting for the rights of these people who are experiencing intimate partner violence is very important, because many a time the challenges that these people are facing are challenges of maybe systemic issues where the system are not working well in terms of legal support, and also the stigma that comes around the intimate partner violence, where one is not able to speak up and come out and say what they are going through, because these people are suffering in their own homes. So you can imagine when someone is suffering and under the hands of someone who should protect them, because if it is a partner, husband in this case, to women, men are there to protect the wives. And so if they are the spouses violating the rights of this woman, who can they now run to? So human rights are there to now speak for this woman or speak for this girl, because globally you can see in every 3 women, 1 girl in their lifetime has suffered maybe through sexual violence or physical violence. He has gone through intimate partner violence, especially if they have ever been in a relationship. Yes, so human rights in this case, like now today, really speaks more for those people who are suffering in that way, sexually, emotionally, physically, psychologically. And that's why now as a counselor, you come in, because when the rights of this person are, let's say partnership is there to fight for these people's rights, counselors come on board because of such programs like trauma-informed programs that helps to help enable the person that is going through this to get support in terms of counseling services and speaking up and awareness for them. Yes.
All right. Coming to you, Wakili, as she mentioned, legal support is quite key. Talk to us about the advocacy work that Jinsangu has been involved in terms of policy change and legal reforms to protect this vulnerable population, if we may call them.
Okay. Thank you. And just also picking up from where Tabitha has left, when we're talking about violence, and today being a Katiba Day, we're talking about a fundamental chapter in our constitution, that is chapter 4, the Bill of Human Rights. And it's very clear in our constitution that the purpose or the main objective of having that bill in our constitution, the first thing is to promote dignity of a human being. And violence takes away that dignity. Any form of violence takes away the dignity of a person. The second objective is to provide social justice. And we realize that, I mean, looking at the background where we are coming from as a country, the most, if you look at the communities and the marginalized members of our communities, the one thing that they had in mind is social justice. They looked at the previous regimes and they felt that they have been marginalized in certain ways, and this have been through policies and certain measures put in place by successive governments that technically marginalizes certain individuals or groups of people. And so this constitution was coming to cure that. And of course it concludes that other than dignity and social justice, which together, it says, are meant to realize to enable a human being reach their full potential. So those combination of dignity and social justice enables a human being to achieve their full potential. And that is the whole purpose of the Bill of Human Rights, to allow every individual to achieve their full potential.
Okay.
And so, coming back to your question, what is it that Jinsangu is doing to support this marginalized group to achieve their full potential? One, I said, they provide spaces. I mean, we are talking of a community of people which has been intimidated over time, which is not covered in the mainstream legal discussions. They are not featuring anywhere in our policies, in our public discussions. And so they are sort of timid, they feel we do not belong. And in that kind of space, really it's hard to achieve your full potential. And so what Jinsangu does then is to try to make them realize that indeed they are also just as equal as any other person. So they bring the aspect of equality, which is also another important principle in our constitution, equality and non-discrimination. They provide voices for these people. They become like the amplifier, the mouthpiece for those who cannot speak for themselves. They provide them with information. They engage on their behalf with the government institutions, other NGOs. They also, ensure that they access services, health services. And so, for example, notable achievements that we can talk of is the issue of now Intersex Bill 2024. I think we'll be discussing more about that in the next discussion. We also have, now we have intersex persons recognized under the Children Act. We also have now intersex people, they were included in the previous census. They were counted actually as a minority group. And also just opening up now spaces for people to talk about these things. Right. Initially it was not, previously it was not there. True. But now because of this dialogue, people now can discuss and talk about these things open. So I will take that as a fundamental achievement on behalf of Jinsangu.
Oh, so you've noted culture change of attitudes and whatnot, yes, especially in the society.
In the society.
That's really important. Tabitha, as you come in, talk to us about the statistics around IPV, that intimate partner violence. What are they like nationally and globally as well? And is it always a case that men are perpetrators? Are they equally victims when it comes to IPV? Break it down for us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I said earlier, they globally, according to the statistics, in every three women, this one woman was suffered in their lifetime under IPV issues, intimate partner violence in any form, either physically, sexually, or emotionally, psychologically. And in our country, according to the KDHS, the 41% of women that have been ever married, either in marriage now or ever married before, have suffered intimate partner violence. So that is how we are now nationally. And so the next question you asked was about...
Are men always perpetrators? Instances where they're victims, and how do we change that narrative?
Yes. Yeah, many times men are perpetrators because of our culture and our society has placed a man in the society in the position of leadership, financial position, even in the education. You remember culturally and traditionally our African we were, and so it has given a man to be a perpetrator many times, but not all the time. Yeah, because talking about the kind of relationship that we have at the moment, the intersex, there's all these others, there are so many things happening around us now. And the same-sex relationship are also suffering from intimate partner violence. So, and also women are also suffering this intimate partner violence outside of relationship, maybe in other cases related to maybe medical issues that are maybe torturing the women. And now if we talk about femicide comes in there. And so I cannot say it is 100% men only causing or being the perpetrators of women. Yeah, that is what I have to say today.
Okay, coincidentally, Wakili, the 16 days against gender-based violence and today, and we're having this conversation, just ask the issue of men. They are equally victims, but they are silent victims.
Yes.
You work with these cases, you know these issues from a perspective of know-how. How would you, or what would you tell those victims who are suffering in silence? You know, it's high time to come out, but they don't know how exactly they can do that. Stigma and all those challenges being faced in society. What would you advise them?
Okay, thank you. And I think, again, that's a good question, whether men also suffer violence. And I think we must then look at violence away from physical violence. I mean, if we looked at physical violence, then definitely the women will be largely affected just by natural strength.
Yeah.
But if we then expand the definition of violence into emotional violence that is happening in many homes, you find that then in that category, even men, their number starts increasing. And so traditionally we have been told, men are not supposed to cry and to come out on the street and say, look, this is what's happening to me at home. Now where do I go? And so you'll find that a lot of men are lost in terms of finding the answer to that question, where do I go? So they go, of course, to the drinking dens as a solution to mitigating the violence. They go to their other mpango wa kando as a way of mitigating the violence at domestic level. But I think that we need to engage now social advocacy networks and just give people a space to believe that I can go to someone, I can speak to someone. And so that voice, which is generally, muffled, we can create a space by amplifying that voice through advocacy network, having organizations that can speak on behalf of men. I know there was Mawe, I don't know what happened to it. That organization, Mawe, it fizzled out at some point.
Okay.
But more of these organizations need to come out.
Right.
And the more they speak about these issues, probably the more people gain confidence then to come out and speak about their issues.
Okay. Tabitha, as we start concluding, prevention is better than cure. So it would be an injustice to talk about IPV without looking at ways of preventing it even before it happens. Talk to us about some of the tried and trusted ways in which you can prevent IPV, and equally the implications around human rights when it comes to intimate partner violence, just briefly.
Okay, thank you. Prevention is better than cure, as we normally say, and I agree with you that if we don't talk about this, it's not going to really help, because we are focusing on changing our society. And so what I can say going forward, because this violence started somewhere, maybe someone went through a childhood experience in a domestic violent home where they could watch their mommy being beaten, or they could watch their daddy being done, whatever it is. And that child, as they watch all this, as they observe what is happening in the family, they are going through psychological trauma. And you're also planting something in them. They are learning how to go about lives. Okay. So as they grow up, what happens is they adopt those styles. That is how they will do to their women or to their husbands. So to undo this thing, how can we go about it? By seeking counseling services, that you need to heal from your traumas. You need to work on it through maybe couple counseling, through individual counseling, group counseling, and that is exactly what we do in Amani Counseling Center, to try and see how we can help the society for those who are coming out, because again, stigma is an issue here. Sure. Yes, again, is doing a lot of self-awareness. And when I talk of self-awareness and social awareness, it starts with us. Now that I'm aware that I'm suffering from this, how is it helping me to change? How is it helping me to adopt new ways of learning? So as we make this awareness and people come out and own the process, they start changing. Another thing is trying to change our cultural practices. Like female genital mutilation is a practice that has been there since time immemorial. So how can we go about adopting this practice in a more healthier way? I don't mean we are going to do FGM, but what else can we do to help our women become good women in the society without ruining their health, without working against their health, because they have a right to health. And also, how can we communicate better, because what is causing people in marriage or in a family to have conflicts, what is happening is because maybe lack of communication. What are the better ways of adopting good communication skills in the family that helps people to settle the issues they have? Another thing is power balance, and that comes in terms of gender equality. What is my role? Does it mean that if I'm more powerful in this family, I have to use physical violence, or I have to use physical intervention to make things work, or there's another better way to work around these things and make things work around?
Okay, finally, Wakili, even as we conclude in 1 minute, looking at the current landscape, there are some of contentious issues being faced. Safe abortion, access to contraceptives. Not everyone can access contraceptives. Have you perhaps been able to navigate that legally?
Okay.
A loaded one, yeah?
As you said, these are still controversial discussions. In terms of law, some of them are outrightly, outlawed. But what I would say that it has been a long journey in terms of approaching sexual and reproductive health discussions in this country. Bills have been tabled, but have not seen the light of the day. It becomes even controversial when you talk about sexual and reproductive health education. When you talk about introducing that to school children, where learning happens, it becomes even more controversial when religion steps in, social norms step in. And so we'll say, yes, the pace, we are walking in the right direction, but the pace seems to be slower, but spaces are opening up in different ways, though discussions at the legislative level are still ongoing. We hope probably that we may find, or we may get something like an act of parliament, maybe to guide us then on the way forward. On some
so political goodwill is very important.
Very important, yes.
Okay, really proper. There's so much we can talk about, so little time, but allow us to conclude at that particular point. But remember, even as we celebrate the Human Rights Day today on the 10th of December, every day should be commemorated as a day to enhance human rights within the country, equally look at these minority groups and how their freedoms should be enhanced, all to do with dignity and social justice, as Wakili said, and equally looking at intimate partner violence and how to nip it at the bud. Prevention, as they say, is better than cure. Asanteni sana for your time. Colbert Ojambo, an advocate of the High Court, wears many hats, including one as a lecturer, equally joined by the counseling psychologist, Tabitha Chepkoech. We definitely appreciate your input. Asanteni sana. This is a conversation we'll continue to have.
Well, that's how we wrap things up here on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. Our sign language interpreter is Philip Omondi. I am Ashley Mazuri. Jesse?
All right, I'm Jesse. Nice.